In a previous video, I wanted to scrape the data from this site. There's about 7,500 items, but the code that I wrote with HTTPX and selectolax, whilst it did work and it was easy to write, it was inherently slow because we weren't making use of any async capabilities. Now, in the end of that video, I said that I wanted to revisit this and make this much quicker. I looked at putting async into that code. However, once it comes down to it, that becomes a bit more complicated. And, given the fact that we are lucky enough when we work with Python to have Scrapy, it makes total sense just to rewrite the thing in Scrapy and make use of all of its extra utility and power. It's going to be async. We're going to use proxies. It's going to be super quick, and it's going to be really, really easy and quick to write using a few of Scrapy's cool little tools and shortcuts that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to create my new virtual environment, Python 3-m venv. And once that's done, I'm going to activate it. This is just a shortcut command for me. And then I'm going to do pip3 install Scrapy, and this should take no time whatsoever. So we are going to be needing to use proxies for this because we're going to be going quickly and async, and otherwise we're going to get our IP banned. The proxies we are going to be using today are from ProxyScrape, friends of the channel, and the ones I've been using myself personally for the last year. As we know, proxies are an integral part of scraping data, and with ProxyScrape we have access to high quality, secure, fast and ethically sourced proxies perfect for our scraping use case. My preference are the residential ones, which give us the best option for beating captures and any other anti-bot protection on the sites we're trying to scrape, something that's going to make our lives much, much easier. There's 10 million plus proxies in the pool to use, and that will all auto-rotate, and with unlimited concurrent sessions, adding proxies to our project is simple and extremely effective when combined with something like Scrapy and async requests like what we're doing here. You'll have a choice of country too for helping when working on very region-specific sites. It's a 99% success rate and traffic that never expires, which is a really nice touch. But if you just want throughput, then get some data center proxies with unlimited bandwidth, 99% uptime and no rate limit from reputable countries and IP auth, making them very easy to use and attractive option within the right use case. So if you're looking for some top quality proxies, check out proxyscrape.com, link in the description below. Now let's finish our project. So now we know where we're getting our proxies from. Let's go ahead and create our project. Scrapy, start project, and this is just going to be called Alpine, and we're going to do exactly what it says here, Scrapy, gen spider, and we will do products. It's going to be called products, and it's this domain here. Cool, so now that's done, I'm going to go ahead and open this folder in my code editor. I'm using Helix. I'm going to go to the settings.py file. First thing we want to do is we want to change this because, we don't want to obey any of those rules. And we're going to need to go ahead and get our user agent. So I always just type in my user agent into the search and just grab the first thing that comes out. There we go, this will do. I'm going to use my mouse. There we go. Put that in there. So I think this should be fine for now. Sometimes I disable cookies. We'll leave it as it is. I think for the moment we don't need to worry. So we're going to go back to our spider that we've created here, and I'm going to import in OS because I'm going to be pulling my proxy string from my environment variables rather than sharing it with all you guys, so you can use up my data. You need to get your own, remember, link in the description. So we're going to need a pass item function, so we'll do pass item self and response, and let's have a look at the site now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to check out is the pagination. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and I'm just going to go to page 2. And we'll then have a look, and we should have a nice next page button. This is going to work well for us. We can either do that, we have a couple of choices, or we can just find the whole pagination block and let Scrapy handle it, which is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to go ahead and use this. It's probably a bit too small for you to see. We're going to use this element, which is going to have all of the page links in it, and we're going to use follow all within Scrapy, and I'll talk about that in just a second once I've coded this out. So data concept is pagination. So inside my pass function, I want to have pagination. These are going to be all my links, response.css, and it was, I think, a div. Yeah, div data-concept, weird name, pagination, A tags. So we're going to grab all the A tags from within this. And what Scrapey will do is it will filter out any duplicates. So what we're basically saying is that, hey, any of the A tags in here that have a link, go ahead and follow them. Follow them all, please. And it's going to do that on every page as it goes through. So when I run this in a second, you'll see that it'll come up and it'll probably say page 234 and 104, and then it will just keep going through them like this, and it will filter out any duplicates for us, so we don't need to worry. It's going to do it all nice and simple. So from here we want to do yield from response dot follow all, and then we can have everything, all of those links that I just showed you will be followed, and we're going to give them pagination. Now the good thing about this is just a bit of a shortcut, and it's just going to say it knows that it wants to follow links, so we don't even need to tell it to have find the href or anything like that. It's going to do it automatically because this is a follow all links. I am going to say callback is going to be equal to self.pass, because we want to come back to this function because we want to go through all of them, and then we'll do our meta, which is going to be equal to proxy, our proxy, and then our os.get env proxy, like so. And I should tidy that up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this, and we're going to come over here. We're going to cd into this the project folder, and we'll do Scrapey crawl products. And we should, what have I done wrong? And that's because I haven't given it the proper start URL. So let's go ahead. We want to start on the right page. That would help us. There we go. And I'm going to start on page 1 because, why not? So let's do this again. And we should start to see all the pages come back through here. And if you look to see what it says, no more duplicates. And it'll be, I'm just going to make this a bit smaller so it might be a bit easier to spot the numbers coming through. But you can see over here, 4, 103, 102, 101. This is just going through all of the pages for the pagination. And it's just going to keep going through them because that's what we've asked it to do. So we could see and we could wait for this. And at the end of this, we'll have 105 requests. I believe there's 104 pages or 105 pages, one of the two. So we'll have all of those. So we are literally just visiting all of the pages like this. But we're not putting any data, so we don't need to let that run anymore. But what we do want to do is we do also want to visit all of the product pages. So if we hover over one of these and come back over to our thingy over here, we should have a class product link. Now this is a bit small for some reason. It won't go much bigger. It won't go any bigger than that. I don't know why. A class product link. You can just see that up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this. And we're going to come back to our project. And we're going to put this above our pagination because we want to go through all of the pages because we're going to have yield from twice in our function. So I'm going to code this out and then I'll talk about that. So we'll have our links. It's going to be equal to response.css, and it was an a.product link. And then over here, actually, underneath this, we'll have yield from, again, yield from response.follow all. And these shortcuts just make it so easy. Links, and then we want to have our callback is equal to self.pass item this time. And again, we want to put in this meta here. Now, if you're going to do this often, you are better off writing your own middleware or copying it from somewhere online to handle your proxies. That's generally what I do. But I'm only doing 2 here, so it's just going to be easy enough to do this. I've messed up my missing a curly bracket. There we go. Right, so how this function is going to work now, and you'll just have to ignore this error, it doesn't like the fact that it's overriding it, but it works just fine, is that we're going to go to the start URL page, and then it's going to go into the pass function. This is the standard, this is the first one it will always go to, and it's going to go through it's going to find all the product links, and then it's going to yield a request. We're using follow all, which essentially is going to create a Scrapey request for us for every link that it finds on the page that matches this product link CSS selector. It's then going to go to our pass function, our pass item function, which we're going to write in a minute, and of course using our proxies, and it's going to do all of that for each one of the products, all asynchronous. So we're basically going to the page one, finding all of the links, creating a request for all of them. We're not waiting for each one to come back. We're going to create them all, and we're just going to handle it asynchronously. And once it's done that, it's then going to go down here, and we're going to yield every pagination link as well using the same response.follow_all. This is a really powerful way of, creating all the requests without having to worry about creating it all yourself. You can just do it this. So basically, going to every product page and every pagination link is a function of 9 lines of code. That's it. So now we can move on to our parse item. I'm just going to go and double check that this is going to run, and we should start to see not only the pages but also the links to the items as well. So we can see loads more, as well as the product pages. We're getting all of the as well as the search pages, we're getting all of the product pages. So we know that is working fine. So we'll stop that. I'm going to come down here, put this in the middle of the screen. Now we need to figure out our product page. So I'm just going to go to this one because actually I find this one will work best. So as you can see on this one, I'm going to close this for the moment. As you can see here, we have not only different colors but also multiple sizes. This can usually be quite a pain if you're trying to parse out HTML that way. But with product pages and e-commerce stores like this, what I always do first is basically, go to view source and type in the word schema. Now you can see in the middle of the screen here, we have standardized schema.org data, which basically means that any site that uses this method, which is a lot of them, this information is always going to be here on the page in the view source, and it's always going to be formatted neatly. Now this one is not the one that we want. There are multiple different matches. I'm going to search, keep going down until we find one that looks a bit better right here. So what we have here is this one actually has the name, etc., and this is all of the product information. Look at all this data, and this is all going to be valid JSON. So I'm just going to copy this out when I can grab it. There we go, copy. I'm going to go to JSON parser. This will do. Let's paste that in there. I'm going to click validate JSON, and lo and behold, JSON is valid. And we can see right away that when we put this into Python, it's going to be a list of dictionaries that's going to have all of the product information on, and it's going to be one entry for every color and size that's available. So we can easily pull all of the product information from this page without having to do any parsing. We don't need to do any HTML parsing or anything. We just need to basically, well, apart from grab the script tag that's got this data in it and just go from there. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to scroll up, and this is script application LD plus JSON. It will always be that. So I'm going to go now and do this. We're going to do our script tag is going to be equal to response.css. And it's a script. Type is equal to application. I've cut off the A. And when you do this, remember you need to have the single quotation marks inside the double quote marks, because otherwise this will fail and not match anything because of the formatting with the slash and the plus, I think. So we'll go there. But we're going to get every single one that's going to match. And if you remember, I just showed you there's lots of different ones. We want to make sure that we only get the one that is pertinent to us. So we're going to loop through them for script in script tag. And we want to load this into our into JSON. So I'm going to import in JSON at the top, and we'll do JSON.loads. Put this in the middle of the screen. Script.css, and we want to give the text text.get. So we're loading this now into JSON. So we can now loop through that for item in data. So we're going to go through each one of those, and we'll say if offers in item, we want to yield that item out. So what we're doing here is we're finding all of the script tags, and we're going to loop through every single one, and we're going to load it into into JSON in the data. Now we want to loop through everything in the data because this one is a list. So we're going to loop through that, and we're going to say if it finds offers in that, we want to yield that out. And the reason why I picked offers is because this is a standardized key that's going to be available in every schema. We could easily use identifier, but you need to bear in mind that if one of these keys is actually in any of the other instances of the schema on the page, like reviews, it will pull that out instead. So you need to pick something specific to the product information that we want, which is why I chose offers. Right, so I'm going to run this now, and we should start to see a load of product information flashing by on the screen as well, which we are. And this is great. So this is essentially, now we know that it is working. I'm going to stop this because we're going to do one more thing first, and that is the data that's coming back is actually all nested and everything, which is fine, but it's a bit more difficult to work with, generally speaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install flatten JSON. Now you can code this all out yourself if you want to. I'll show you what it looks like. So flatten JSON. So it's this. So essentially what it's going to do is it's basically just going to create a new flat dictionary or flat list or dictionary, whatever it is, dictionary that basically has all of the keys added together. And this is just going to give us one chunk of text, one chunk of item data, which is, you know, maybe a bit easier to work with in some cases. If this isn't relevant to you in your instance, then that's fine. But I like to do this for things like this. It just makes it easier to see and work with. So I'm going to do from flatten JSON. I'm going to import in flatten, come to the bottom, and instead of yielding item, we're going to yield flatten. I'm just going to make sure that this is a dict item like so. Cool, so I'm going to save. We'll come back over here, and I'm going to do a test. Not with that. We're going to do, crawl products. I'm going to do output test.json. I'm going to run it for a couple of seconds just so we can see the data. There we go. Let's just pick up a few more pieces of information. That will do. So now I'm going to open up our test.json file. We can see that this is exactly what we were hoping to get. I'm going to format this, and now we have a list of dictionaries that has all of the product information all neatly stored, flattened out. So we have the name here, the SKU, there's the URL, offer price, recommended price, VAT, everything like that. All the information that you could want is now available here in stock, for example. And there's logo images and everything like that. And there should be a link to the page as well. There it is, yeah. So this is kind of cool. This is very, very, very easy for us to grab this data. And this is basically, what, 29 lines of code compared, well, that we've written. Obviously, there's a whole Scrapey project behind this. But compared to the code that I wrote, this is much easier to write out and to understand, I think. So the point is that Scrapey really does make your life much easier once you start to utilize all of its cool features. Things like response.followAll is something that I didn't use for a very, very long time in Scrapey. I used to just write the request out myself, but this makes it so much easier to manage. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run this in its entirety, and I'll show you how long it takes to scrape 7,500 items with a spider like this, and we'll also look at the amount of data that's used by it, so we can kind of get a feel of how much it's going to cost us to run this with our proxies, should we want to run this more often or anything like that. So I'm going to remove my test file, and I'm going to do Scrapey crawl products output, and we're just going to call this products .json. I'm going to let this run, and I will be back once it's done. All right, so we're done, and it's we can see we have got 7,494 responses, which I think is probably about right, given the fact that we had 7,423 products. That seems about right. Here's our number of filters. So it took 1,000 seconds, which was, well, I don't know. I can't work this out, so I'm going to Google it. It's about 16 minutes, not too bad. And where did we have the item scrape count is 54,000. That's because of all the different variations. And somewhere around here we should have response bytes. Here we go. So this is just over a gigabyte. So we've got to think about, we've made somewhere about 7,500 requests, and we've used about a gigabyte of data. So depending on the proxy package that you get, this will probably cost just over $1 or $2. So you got to keep that in mind when you start to scale up scraping, because we have to use proxies. We can't do it through the same can't do it through the single IP, because you'll just get blocked straight away. So if it takes a couple of bucks to run this each time, if we run it every day, we're probably like $60 a month, but that's a hell of a lot of information that we're getting. So you just need to keep that in mind when you're thinking about scaling up scraping of any kind. Really, there's also sort of things to keep in mind. So this was really successful, I think. Scrapey is definitely the way forward for this. This was so much neater, quicker, and easier to write than doing it manually. And I think I've moved over to using Scrapey for almost everything now. It's just so much quicker to write, and yeah, much better. So if you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment, comment, subscribe, and I think you're going to want to watch this video next, which is more of the same.